What is going on, family? How is everybody doing? Get your libation. Get whatever you need. I don't care whether it's chamomile tea to relax or a little something extra, water, whatever floats your boat for the evening. Please get that if you don't already have that, family. Please, please, please. I want to remind everybody to hit that like button. Hit the bell if you have not already hit the bell, so that you know when I go live. Just hit that bell so you don't waste any time. Some of you need to re-hit the bell because I know it's been like unbelling people or something like that. So please do that as well. Also, family. Oh, the first batch of shirts went out Saturday and this morning. If yours is in that, you should receive an email. 2XLs are sold out. I got another order in. So, but if you order like a 2X, then, because I didn't order many shirts, because I can't be spending a bunch of money, then have it sitting there, and we don't have no inventory. This is not black business. This is donation. So listen. So the first ones went out this morning, and on Saturday, if yours was in there, you should have received an email, to that effect, adosmerch.com, if you want to do that. So, and if you have not, I'll be trying to get those out throughout the week. To you guys, but like I said, some had to be made, and I got a back order, so I'll keep you updated. Next on the line, we gotta handle business. Remember, we're going to be reading When Affirmative Action Was Right. That is going to be on the 23rd of May. So if you want to join us, the 23rd is a Thursday. So if you want to join us on that Thursday, we will be having that conversation. We will have a Monday show. We will have a Wednesday show. And on May the 23rd, we will have the book club show where we discuss the show and where we discuss the book and talk about everything in the book. And for those of you who have been with me for a while, you know that I've talked about this book a lot. Like, this isn't anything new. I've talked about this book a lot, and I want to bring it to the conversation. And if you want to donate, as usual, donatebrown.com, patreon.com/ycarnell. You can do it that way. Subscribe to brown.com. It's totally free. Just add your name if you have not already to my email list, so I have your name. Liking is totally free. Hitting that bell is totally free. So let's get into it, fam. We got to talk. We got to have a conversation about. I see a lot of people in the comments. I see a lot of people around everywhere on Twitter and Facebook talking about staying on code. But something is happening in the sense of we've never really defined what that means. And we've never really defined how do we decide who's on code and who's off code. How do we figure out, like, if a person is on code or if they're off code, and what do we do about them if they're off code? Because you can't have this idea that everything is going to not be divisive and we're all going to be collective. But you got to have, if you have code, you got to have code enforcement. You can't be on code and then not have code enforcement. It doesn't work that way. So you have to be willing to not be totally divisive as a collective, but you have to be willing to enforce code and let a person know when they're off code, and you have to define what being on code means. Now, being on code for me means you have to be in line what is best politically and economically for ADOS. That's just the short and small of it. You know, I could expand, but you have to be in line with what is best for ADOS politically and economically. And that has to be your priority. In your politics, in your life, that has to be your priority. That is on code. And when you step offline, there has to be a repercussion. There has to be a consequence. And we can't just say, well, let's support that person because they're black or whatever. Now, sometimes I feel like the best thing to do when we're talking about this is talk about somebody who is off code. And just discuss how we know it and what we should do about it. It's best a lot of times to use an example, right? It's best to just like use an example. What is this thing and what does it look like? Well, I think Symone Sanders is a really good example. And when I talk about her, I'm talking about, most of you know, most of you are aware, worked for Bernie Sanders, commentator for CNN. And now she has me sort of asking, what is solidarity? What does solidarity look like? And I'm not talking about, a lot of times we talk about solidarity among leftists, or among, we don't have no solidarity with the right wing, or we don't have no solidarity necessarily with Democrats or Republicans, or immigrants who don't get what we're talking about and understand the role that we play. But we have to talk about internal solidarity as well. We just can't talk about external solidarity. What does solidarity look like within group? What does solidarity look like within group? We're ADOS. What does solidarity look like within group? See, when you look at, she worked for Bernie Sanders. This was her in high school, right? In the introducing Clinton, the girls club or whatever. And I'm not faulting you for none of that. You was in high school. I was a fan of Clinton in high school. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how you have moved and where you are maneuvering to at this point. See, now you're doing the Biden thing. And you're talking about how the energy is electric. So you've moved on. Understand. Let's slow down and understand where she's gone. Understand that she has gone from a leftist, socialist politician to a status quo Biden. Understand that that's what she has done. It's worse than status quo. Honestly, with Biden, we're talking much worse than status quo. And we're going to get into it. But already when I'm thinking about it and I'm talking about it, I question whether or not you have values. Having values is important. And putting ADOS at the top of your value set in terms of how you advocate is very important. See, like I said before on this show, we don't need operatives. As ADOS, we need advocates. We need advocates, not operatives. Some of y'all would like to go around and see, well, you Yvette, everybody else get to move like that and work for all these different campaigns and live. Yeah, that's like accessing whiteness. That's how you get to move. We're not there. We don't get to move like that. We don't get to maneuver like that. That's not who we are. That's not what we've achieved. And we have to, in order to achieve, we have to have someone in those spaces who doesn't just toe the line and say, he's electric. Woogie, woogie, woogie. We don't have to have nobody who just toe the line and say, you electric. Right? Or teach Bernie how to do the electric slide, or do like Roland did, and teach him how to do the funky chicken. We need somebody to advocate within these spaces. And see, what happens a lot is that people get in these spaces and they tell you what black people like. Like, well, black people like when you talk this way, or you got to talk about this, as opposed to saying, no, you don't got to talk about this to win black people. You gotta be about this. You don't got to talk about this. You got to be about this to win us and do something for us. Not just to win a vote from us, but to actually do what you should be doing as a politician for us. That's what's necessary. So I think we have to kind of change how we think about these people and understand what we need versus who they are. And how who they are right now isn't what we need in terms of the kind of advocacy that we need. That's not it. And even when you talk about, you tried to bring it up like Biden on The View being apologetic, but what you didn't necessarily bring up, and you tried to go on and talk about how he's gotten donations and all of this stuff. That doesn't say anything about us. Understand, fam? We have to stop seeing all politics as this kind of general politics. Well, what's good over here and globally, and I can understand why people think this and this has to happen over here. No, it has to be bigger than that. It has to be about us. And I'm not saying that it has to be about us just because, like, oh, well, we have to prioritize ourselves like every other group does. That's true. We do have to. Every other group does prioritize themselves and their interests. That's exactly right. But it's also because, like, we're not even really surviving. We're in a mode where we're in collapse. I think Antonio showed me a article from the Detroit Free Press about the 70% of kids are like absent, like all the time. That's not indicative. That is not indicative of like just some kids laying out of school, that's indicative of a community in collapse. And when you are a community in collapse, you got to move a certain way, and you got to move in unison. You can't just move one by one and you do this and you do that and we all free. No, we got to move together in terms of our politics. I'm not talking about moving together in terms of our interests. You can go like robots and you can go like comic books and you can like opera. I don't care. I'm talking about in terms of our politics. This is where the code matters. This is where staying on code matters. And code and staying on code requires code enforcement. You can't always be like, well, Yvette, don't be mean. Yvette, don't be divisive. Yvette, don't do this. No, because you are off. You are out of code. And there has to be somebody to say it, and there has to be retribution. I'm not talking about anything mean, but it has to be somebody to check you. Because this is the person that you're in bed with. This is the candidate that you chose. Will black voters still love Biden when they remember who he was? Now, we've talked about Biden, but I just want to bring a couple things up real quick just so we remember. Joe Biden once called state-mandated school integration the most racist concept you can come up with. And Barack Obama, the first sort of mainstream African-American who is articulate and bright and clean. The rest of y'all, he said, basically, y'all dirty. He clean. We some dirty. That's what he basically said. Like, he was a staunch opponent of forced busing in the 1970s and leading crusader for mass incarceration throughout the 80s and 90s. Uncle Joe has described African American felons as predators, too sociopathic to rehabilitate, and white supremacist senators as friends. Now, if you don't know what they're talking about, I'm not even going to tell you who that is. You can go look it up. So when I talk about Symone Sanders, I'm coming back to this. You know, Obama's half white. So even before I talk about her, when he says like Obama's the first really clean candidate, he's so fresh. You saw what you saw was yourself in him because he was half white. I'm not saying that we all don't have white. That's the difference between having a white parent and accessing whiteness. We all have, like, in terms of being mixed as ADOS, we can't access none of that. You probably can't even find the white. You can't even find the white people who are connected to the whitenesses in your bloodline. They running. Okay? You get invited to the family reunions? No. So what you have to really understand is a lot of things in terms of this. You have to understand who Biden is, and you have to understand who Bernie Sanders is, and you have to understand that Symone Sanders is moving in a very individual way that is outside of and is not encased in what is best in terms of ADOS politics. So, but what does that mean? Well, the first thing that it means is that you cannot, let's talk about sisterhood, black women, y'all here. Let's talk about, we cannot see her as black women, well, black men, but especially black women as like our sister on TV. Because you can't represent me and not advocate for me in a very specific way. I saw Symone Sanders on TV today. I was watching CNN and she said, Joe Biden stands for the middle class. Well, we're not middle class, sweetheart. We're not. Let's just bring it up. Let's just go through this really quickly. Really quickly. Because you say this, and we all know it. But let's just bring this up. This is from a few years ago, and it's gotten worse since then. Single women of color aged 36 to 49 have a median wealth of just $5. So if you're advocating for, if you all are seeing her through a hood of sister girl, because of the clean fade or the long nails or because of how she talks or swivels her neck, it doesn't make any sense. We can't see people through culture. It's like anybody can culturally do this. Are you advocating for our economic best interest? Because we ain't middle class. For the most part, you all know, I'm going to bring this chart up again. It's been a while, but let's bring it up one more time. Bottom 50%, black household worth less than $1. Worth less than $1. If you're advocating for the middle class in mass, that means that you're not advocating for us. ADOS. We don't lead middle class lives. We don't have stability in our lives. That's not how we live. And what you're telling me, if you're telling me like, okay, well, this is what it is, you're telling me that like you don't represent me. Let's just look at this quote for 1 second. Single black women in their 20s without a degree have zero wealth, and the typical single black woman with a college degree is $11,000 in debt. Married black women in their 30s with college degrees are $20,000 in debt. One reason for the wealth gap among college educated single women is that black women have the highest level of student debt and struggle to pay off the debt early. Debt. A middle class family is worth $150,000, ladies and gentlemen. $150,000. And the ones that you see are kind of like Symone Sanders in terms of being boomer hooked. Two parents, professional jobs who are able to transfer you something to transfer that down. But we know that the middle black family is worth $1,700. If you talk about $150,000 being middle class, that means that you don't represent me. But you don't get to go and do your sister girl thing and pretend that you represent me though. No, I'm looking at what you just said. I heard that today on CNN. And even Allie Vale, she pushed back and said that's some of the same stuff that Trump said. And she said, well, we're not Trump. We support a very different thing. And we support trans people and we support immigrants. We support whole people of color. So we're not like Trump. Yeah, but the economically, if you're trying to say that you're just supporting people in this bracket, like if you're doing the thing that Democrats do who wins, which is throwing away poor people, which means throwing away ADOS people, that's what you're doing. You're throwing us in the trash for a job. That's not on code. You out of line. Now, if you just want to be an operative, be an operative. Don't do all this signaling for sisterhood. If you're not going to advocate for us in terms of what's economically and politically best for us, then that's what it is. And understand, when we talk about college educated black, when we talk about college educated people in general, we're talking about the best of ADOS, the people who actually got to go to college. Only about 20 some odd percent of black people go to college. So when you talk about the ones who went, those are the ones who are supposed to be doing the best, and we burdened with debt. And you on somewhere on Joe Biden's campaign talking about middle income people, talking about you gonna help the middle class. I don't think we understand. And we can go back to this article and we can talk about, just show you what Biden is. Biden discerned that the arc of history was bending toward white backlash, and the young candidate bent with it. But let me tell you something. They're talking about busing and all that stuff, how he was for it before he was against it. Don't have no spine, no conviction. You just move in the way you move. But I don't even think that's enough. I don't even think that goes far enough. I think this is a man who feels the same way as most Republicans. I don't think this is a person. Let me slow down. I don't think he's moving this way because he's trying to maneuver or because no, I think that's who you are. And it doesn't matter that you have a D behind your name. That's who you are. You've always catered to these people who kind of racist. And you didn't say, like I said before, if you didn't want busing or whatever, the kids to come, then you got to have an infusion of money into black schools so that black kids can keep their teachers and keep schools in their neighborhood, but they have the same quality of education as white kids. You didn't do that either because you didn't care. That's the same reason you just now called Anita Hill, because you never really did care. You just called now because you're running for office. You don't care what you did in the Judiciary Committee with Anita Hill and how it went and how it affected her. And I'm not talking about agree or disagree. I'm talking about a fair process. I'm talking about a fair process because Anita Hill has kind of attached herself to Me Too and genderized everything. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how that process went down when it went down. So, when we're talking about how the process went down, there's something very interesting. Before you do that, understand what Biden said. Biden says he didn't treat her badly. Now, I want you to put a pin in that. And I want you to hold on to that. Biden said that he did not treat her badly. And here's what he said. He said, I don't think I treated her badly. Now, during a discussion about his role as Senate Judiciary Chairman, now when you hear the word chairman, when you're chairman of a committee, understand that that means that you were in the leadership role. You are in a leadership role. You're not just some new freshman coming in there. You're in a leadership role. You are the boss. That's who you are. That's what it means to be chairman. Now think about who he is versus how he's describing himself. It says Biden has apologized for Hill's treatment by others. A point he made again Friday, wondering aloud how you stop people from asking inflammatory questions. Now that, friends, is a lie. That is a bold-faced lie. That is a lie. It wasn't about how do you do this? I don't know. I'm Biden. I don't know how you do. You protect the people. I try sometimes. That's what he does. He plays this little silly game that he's like a little buffoon. He's not. He knew exactly what he was doing when he did it. If you don't believe me, that was a very good article. If you got the newsletter, you would have seen this article, what Joe Biden hasn't owned up to about Anita Hill. This breaks it all down. This breaks it all down about the process. Understand, people, I'm talking about the process and how Joe Biden ran that process with a black woman in there. Now, he's a black woman in that seat, and what he allowed to happen, and what he did, and how he finagled his way with Republicans, and how it looks to me like he didn't tell the truth. So let's just go through this. Let's just go through this though, point by point, because we have to understand who he is and what Sanders is doing. So let's just go through it. One of the things that you keep seeing with Biden is an inability to take responsibility for himself and his actions. He says Biden again stopped short of blaming himself, saying, I did everything in my power to do what I thought was within the rules. He then added, I don't think I treated her badly. Okay, now understand, let's just keep going. Biden failed to acknowledge that as the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee in 1991, he set many of the rules that damaged Hill and determined the overall fairness of the process. So you complain about the rules and you say, I did everything within the rules, and you don't tell people that you set the rules, because people are not paying close enough attention to politics to realize that you set the rules that you say that got in your way. Okay, he's depending on people being stupid. That's fine. Okay, we not though. Then here's the part. Even one of the top lawyers on Biden's Senate staff at the time, Cynthia Hogan, now faults their handling of the hearings. As she admitted this week to the Washington Post, what happens is we got really politically outmaneuvered by Republicans. Now let me say something. Before we go on, let me say something. I don't trust you to be president if you are chairman of the House Judiciary Committee and you got outmaneuvered by Republicans. That tells me, if I take you at your word, and I don't, but if I take you at your word, that lets me to believe that you can't do the job. If you got outmaneuvered during the Hill hearings, you're going to get outmaneuvered as president. You're not good at this. But I don't believe that. I believe that you were on the same side. I believe that you didn't believe Anita Hill, and you didn't want to do the stuff, and she's listen, and the Republicans want this candidate. I'm going to give them what they want, because that's good for me, because back in Scranton, where I'm from, this is going to look good for me too. Because I got a lot of those same people. I don't think you got outmaneuvered. I think you did what you wanted to do. And I think you're proud of what you did. I think you're perfectly okay. That's why you just called Anita Hill. If you really cared and this thing was really weighing on you, and you didn't do it right, you would have called a long time ago. You calling right now because you ran for president, and somebody had to make you call. You've been knowing you wanted to run. You could have called a long time ago and got this out the way. And then when somebody asked, say, hey, pump your brakes. I called her a while back and we had a conversation, and I apologize. I apologized to her 2 years ago, and I regret that. I didn't handle it right. You could have said that, but you didn't. And you didn't say it for a reason. There's a reason why you didn't say it. That's the same reason you were pushing the crime bill. You were pushing mass incarceration, because that's who you are. There could just as easily be an R behind your name as any Republican. That's who you are. Joe Biden crime bill is the same Joe Biden who didn't believe Anita Hill, and the same. I could actually make a case that you're the reason that we got Clarence Thomas because of how you handle that. And if you don't believe me, let's go on to the next little thing. Let's go on to the next point that I want to make. Thomas's, and they're talking about Clarence Thomas. Thomas's defenders portray Hill as having carefully plotted to bring him down. But in fact, she twice declined to discuss her allegations with Senate staffers when they contacted her. Eventually, she agreed to do so out of a sense of duty. So she didn't want to really talk to y'all. She didn't really want to be bothered. Okay. And then you get into the whole bullying of it all. The aide who investigated the claim, for instance, declined to call Hill, requiring that Hill initiate contact. Once they spoke, the aide declined to act on Hill's allegations unless Hill consented to Biden's office confronting Thomas directly and disclosing Hill's name. She didn't want her name out there. Hill, who hadn't been asked for any of this, demurred. Biden's aide concluded that Hill had merely wanted to get it off her chest. The public, meanwhile, heard nothing of it. The public didn't even know all of this was going on. They didn't even know that she didn't really want to talk about it. She didn't really want to be bothered. They didn't know any of this. But here's the kicker. Biden said later in an interview that he believed Hill from the start. But Thomas and his wife have said that Biden called them after reading the FBI reports and assured them that there was no merit to Hill's accusations. No merit. Who are you? Like, I'm talking about the fairness of the process, people. That's all. As chairman of the Judiciary Committee, who are you to call and say what is and without merit? And what kind of Democrat are you calling kissing butt to a Supreme Court justice? To a Republican conservative Supreme Court justice? Nominee. Who are you to do that? What kind of person? What kind of bootlicking person? Who does that? What kind of Democrat does that? There's no merit. How do you know? You don't know. You don't know what. You don't know who's lying at that point. You don't know who's telling the truth. You can't call them and reassure them. But that's who Biden is. He's a Republican, basically, who, his Scranton roots are deep. From mass incarceration to conservatism. There's nothing changed. This leopard hasn't changed any stripes. And let's go on. Let's go a little bit further with this. Biden was warned that it could take weeks to thoroughly investigate the charges. At the same time, he agreed to the Republican demand to move quickly, providing little to no time to get all the facts. This is how politics happens, people. It's not just about the policy. It's about who's in charge. It's about who's in the room. And it's about how the people in the room navigate. That's what politics is. That's what politics is. It's about who heads up the Judiciary Committee. Who's going to be heading up the Judiciary? And what are they going to feel? What are they going to believe? You're a Delaware senator, grew up in Scranton, really white. And this makes you look like you're bold. You're not tied to party. You just try to do the right thing. He's a conservative, but I do the right thing. Scranton, Delaware. And so Symone Sanders is like, well, he raised money in all these different states. He raised money. Isn't that great that he raised money? Listen, you were vice president and you're the most milquetoast candidate in there. How can you not raise money? If he didn't raise money in every state, I'd be shocked. If Biden didn't raise money after being VP and running for president about how many times, 2 or 3 or whatever, if he didn't raise money in every state, I would be floored. You've been around forever. How do you not? And we didn't even know the half of it, right? We didn't even know the half of it. Here's another part of it. Among the most consequential concessions Biden made to Thomas's team was his agreement that the committee would only examine Thomas's behavior in the workplace rather than outside of it. As Strange Justice, that's a book about the Anita Hill hearings. As Strange Justice describes, there were numerous witnesses over the course of Thomas's life who corroborated Hill's account that he liked to watch and describe. Something Thomas categorically denied because of Biden, this corroborating testimony was outside the scope of the hearing, and this is what that leads to. This is what that leads to. And there were 3 women who wanted to testify, which might very well have changed the outcome of the final vote. But Republicans convinced Biden that one of the women, Angel Wright, who like Hill worked for Thomas at the EEOC, would not hold up as a witness. Wright watched the hearings on television from her lawyer's office waiting to be called. Wright had a corroborator, Rose Jourdain, who also was eager to testify, but she too never got the chance. They and the third woman, Sukari Hartnett, instead were allowed to submit only depositions or written statement, which were added into the public record so late that few senators even saw them, all of which was Biden's call. You know, we like to spend a lot of time complaining about Clarence Thomas, and rightfully so, but not understanding who played a role in giving him to us. I'm not saying who would have gotten picked next or how conservative or less conservative that person would have been, but I'm saying that Clarence Thomas, in terms of how he engages on that bench, doesn't really talk. And people were hoping because he's black and he's ADOS that he would at some point come around and, you know, do the right thing. And for the most part, we have not seen that. And so what I'm telling you is that when you see Clarence Thomas, and when you say, how is Clarence Thomas on the bench? When you see Clarence Thomas, you got to see Joe Biden. When you see Clarence Thomas, you got to see who's responsible for it and see who's behind it. And that is Biden. That is Biden all day. And lastly, let me just say this part. In a final step, Biden gave Thomas the choice of testifying first, last, or both. First, last, or both. He's like a maitre d'. He's like a host. Would you like to sit in the back? Would you like to sit in the window? You want to sit outside? Thomas's team chose the third option, sandwiching Hill's quiet, dignified testimony between Thomas's vehement denials. Biden brought down the gavel, closing the hearings at 2:03 a.m. on Monday, October 14, 1991. Thomas was confirmed the following day at 6:03 p.m. in a 52-48 vote, the slimmest margin in more than a century. Fam, listen. You have to understand something. Just like I'm tying Biden to Clarence Thomas, Obama is also tied to Biden. The man who said that he was clean, he was the cleanest black man, and he was clean and articulate. That's who Obama chose to be his VP. All of these people are the same. These people believe the same. They walk around. No. None of these people have ADOS interests at heart in any kind of way. And Symone Sanders has chosen to work for him. She's chosen to be cover for him. And Biden's campaign doesn't work without a picture of him with Obama for 8 years. That makes him look less racist. I saw a bunch of people like, Yvette, why do you go so hard on boomers? I read an article about boomers talking about, well, we like Biden. What good giggly wiggly? I mean, what do you, we prefer Biden. Based on what? This is why I go hard on boomers. What is that based on? Do you know everything do you know everything I just read? Or do you just like him because he was Obama's VP? But Obama made this possible. Biden been trying to run for president for a long time and ain't got nowhere. Because he doesn't have any principles, any real more. He's he's a conservative. He's more conservative. But his life, this candidacy that he has right now, that Symone Sanders is working toward and for, would not be possible without Barack Obama. And how do you bring somebody on your team who said what they said about you? Well, he's clean and he's articulate, unlike the rest of the horde of Negroes. That's the implication. How do you do that? How do you not tie these people together and understand who's to blame? I don't get it. And, you know, how do you not understand what I just put up? How do you not understand who black, when you talk about, well, she's a black woman, I support her. The question isn't whether or not you support her. The question is whether or not she supports black women. And we're talking economically. We're not talking about whether y'all get y'all fade done the same, or whether we, you know, whether we get our nails done, or whether, oh yeah, I got this kind of cut. Ain't nobody talking about that. I don't care about that. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about who we are. Listen, does the person who you support care whether or not you eat? I'm just asking. Does the person who you, the Symone, does she care about whether or not you have more than $1,700 in your account? And there is no presidential run without this. Without Obama. These people are playing an awful long game. An awful long game on us. And we are having a hard time picking it up because we like people. Obama said, I was watching an old clip of Obama as I prepared for the show, and he was talking about why he chose Biden and how that was the best decision he ever made. And nobody asked him about Biden's past and Biden's history. I couldn't ask, because y'all were accusing me, not y'all, not Breaking Brown family, but everybody else was accusing me of being a sellout during that period. Oh, Yvette, you just don't like the black man. Oh, Yvette, you just a sellout. Oh, Yvette, he darker than you. How you gonna be like that, Yvette? So that was life. And so now here we are. Now here we are. This is the legacy of everything wrong. Obama and Biden and Clarence. What a web we weave. What a web we weave. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And let me just say this. We've talked about one of the things, you know, you have to understand who a person is, right? You know, you have to understand Obama grew up white, white grandparents, white mom, Indonesia, white and international. And maybe that was the affinity with Joe Biden in terms of his Scranton background. Maybe the connection was like his Kansas parents had a lot in common with Joe Biden. Might have reminded him of Joe Biden. So it's always been kind of crazy that we kind of see Obama in like the lexicon of like us, when his life wasn't anything like our life. That's why he and Joe Biden got along and he liked him so well. Probably remind him of Grandpappy. That's not us. They got these Scranton, Kansas backgrounds. That's not us. I don't know how many people. Symone Sanders is from Omaha, Nebraska. I don't know how many of us is there. I don't know. But I know I see a problem when I see her supporting, you know, Valerie Jarrett and women's, you know, women getting money, and I don't see you doing a whole lot of talk about the racial wealth gap of reparations, but I see a whole lot of talk about women and women getting money and the gender gap. I see a whole lot of that. But when a man even pops up and a black man even pops up and says something, you got a lot of stuff to say. You got a lot of heat for him and how he don't deserve to talk. Now, here's what I will say. You have every right, as I do. I do it all the time. If you say something that I think is stupid, I challenge it on the merits. I say, this is why you're wrong. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. But I'm going to engage you seriously. I'm not going to say that you don't have the right to talk because nobody asked for your opinion. Because quite frankly, Symone, I didn't ask for your opinion. I didn't ask for you. I didn't ask for you to call. I didn't send for you. None of us sent for you. So you could have engaged whatever he said, whatever Luke said, you could have engaged that and say, this isn't right, and I'll tell you why. But we don't even, it's like you don't even want to engage seriously on that level of like regular black people. It's got to be you only talk to Bakari sellers or some nonsense. You don't want to engage. But if you don't want to engage regular black people and you a black person on CNN, I think you got a problem. I think you got a black problem. And I don't think you're going to resonate the way that Biden thinks you're going to resonate by just giving him tricks and stuff for us. No, that's not good enough, because he needs to be canceled. And I'm going to tell you something. What we got to understand is that it's not just him that gets canceled. When we talk about being on code, if you're not on code, you get canceled too. You can't just go do Biden, and let's say Biden don't get elected, somebody else gets elected, and you come back, oh shucks, y'all. I tried and it ain't work, but I was just doing my thing. I gotta get my money too. No, you don't get to come home. Not after supporting somebody who has had and supported such racist policies. These were policies that intentionally destabilized the ADOS community. You don't get to come home. Go somewhere else. Find somewhere else to be. Go back to Omaha. Don't matter to me. Because even when you talk about black women and you talk about sisterhood and all that, and you fighting for the middle class, this is what black women are living through right now. Evictions, a hidden scourge for black women. And here's what, when you go into the article, this is what it says. It says poor black men are locked up while poor black women are locked out. And understand, in terms of any kind of nuclear family, when you talk about black people, getting married and a black woman, and she talks about no black man around. Well, it was an intentional, the mass incarceration was an intentional destabilization of the nuclear black family, because what that meant was that you didn't have nobody. And if you had somebody, they might have gotten pulled off the street, right? And taken to jail at a rate that's astronomical. Which means this was intentional. Which means that what Biden did was intentionally support a policy that caged, let's call it what it is, people. Let's call it what it is. That caged black men and set it up for where these black women who were looking for black men to partner with didn't have partners. Not only did not have partners, didn't have daddies, didn't have brothers, didn't have cousins. It destabilized the black community in a very traumatic way. And so she don't have no money. She's getting evicted. Right? So black women are getting evicted. Black men is in jail. And you're supporting the man who was an architect of that and a supporter of that. That is not on code. And you don't get a pass. You do not get a pass. You don't get to pass go. You don't get to do anything. And the article says, and many landlords will not rent to someone who's been evicted. As they like to say, I'll rent to you as long as you don't have an eviction or a conviction. That's life. And so what do we have a lot? Black women have evictions. Black men have convictions. And this is intentional. This isn't just something that we did wrong. This was an intentional setup from crack cocaine, everything. It was an intentional destabilization of our communities. So make us dysfunctional by intentionally destabilizing our communities through social engineering and everything else and policies, and then punish us and impoverish us based on the dysfunction that you created. And how do you go and work for that person? And how do you, as Symone Sanders, use your Twitter page? Basically, give your Twitter page, your person. You didn't make up a Symone for Biden page. You took all the people for Sanders. You had all them people, and they followed you on there, and now you're using that for Biden. Oh, and you're talking about how it's electric. I don't think we understand. I don't think we have any understanding of how problematic this is. I don't think we really understand. We don't need operatives. We need advocates. We don't need operatives. We need advocates. We need people who are advocating for us in that space. And we need to talk about what sisterhood looks like, who it looks like. And we need to understand, like, you can't want to be the voice of black people without representing black interests. You can't want to be the voice of ADOS without representing ADO interests. No, ADOS don't care like how much he raised. Nobody cares. This is a very white fundraiser conversation. We don't care. You should be on that campaign that advocate for policy that's beneficial to us as a group. That's what you're supposed to be there for. And so the thing that happens, and I want to stop seeing this happen. So if I criticize her for what she's doing and say this is not on code, you can't say, well, Yvette, that's just divisive. That's divisive, Yvette. Why you always acting like that? You know, we got to stick together. No, there has to be a consequence. Somebody has to say this is not in line with code. This is not on code. This is not doing what is economically and politically best for ADOS. That is not code. And somebody has to call that out. If that's divisive, so be it. I have said having a tribe, we as ADOS are our own tribe. And I have said that having a tribe is about inclusion as well as exclusion. Tribes don't just accept anybody. If so, you're not a tribe no more. You just a people and you just a group somewhere wondering that accepts all comers. We can't accept all comers no more. You pick the worst candidate out of about 20. You pick the worst candidate after how many Democratic candidates do we have right now, fam? How many? Like 20? Like 20? I mean, it's a lot of people. How do you pick the worst one or the one that did the worst stuff to ADOS? How do you pick that person and be like, yep, that's the one I'm running with? How? It doesn't make much sense. So, fam, I'm going to take a quick break as usual, and we're going to go to the phones. I really want to hear what you have to say. Let's try to keep the calls concise because I want to keep as many people be able to come in and and I want to have the conversation. So let's try to keep the calls concise and to the point. I want to talk about what is your definition of being on code? What does that look like? What does excommunication look like? I don't think that these people are teachable, but do you think so? Do you think that they can come around or whatever? You know, or do you think it's divisive to do that? How do you think, what does on code mean to you? Like, what does that mean? So I want to have that conversation. So let's talk about it because we got to talk about it because it's got to mean something. What's going on, fam? We're about to go to the phones, but you know, one of the most important clips I left out. Before we go to the phones, let me just show you something. This is what Symone Sanders said in 2018. Anita Hill, because she is a black woman, did not have the luxury of vulnerability before the all-white male Senate Judiciary Committee in 1991. Really? Is that so? So, like, the question that I have is whether you are lying to me now or whether you were lying then. That's my question. Were you lying to me then, or are you lying to me now? Because now you talk about how she didn't have that vulnerability, but now you're working for the person. Now you're working for the person that assured that she didn't get it, and you're cheering that person on because they gave a haphazard apology on The View, and they still backed out of it and didn't take responsibility. And let me just say this, fam. It's worse than him not being, like she says, like he's just not perfect. No, this is like destabilizing, incarcerating a generation, and like bringing black life to the point to where it's in collapse. That's what this is. This is worse than not being perfect. Nobody is saying like, well, one time he had an affair or something like. No, this is like you are part of destroying communities. Your community. That's supposed to matter. I don't know what else to say about it. So we are about to go to the phones, ladies and gentlemen. About to go to the phones. I'm going to go to 310 first. 310, what's going on?
Yeah, this is Tone Talks. What up, y'all? It's a trip because me and Yvette, we just did the Biden show on Friday, and I think you should watch that show as well on my channel because I pulled up some of the clips into the actual show, and I know Yvette presumes that some of the people have seen it. But I just want to read one of the clips that Biden actually said on the congressional floor so that we all are clear. This is what Biden said on the congressional floor supporting the 94 crime bill, so we're talking about 93. A cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, were born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience, developing because they literally have not been socialized. So single black mothers, because he's dog whistle talking about black people, young black people in ghettos all across America. Single black mothers don't socialize their children. They literally have not had an opportunity, he said. We should focus on them now because if we don't, they will, or a portion of them will become the predators 15 years from now. Now, the reason why I think it's important to read that, if you can pull back up the Symone Sanders tweet that you just had up. Symone Sanders is the worst kind of problem right now. Not person, but problem. Because what she's doing, she's grifting. And I think her boomer parents taught her this. Read the bottom line of that out loud. It says, P.S. All stock photos aren't created equal. Nobody has time for you to do fashion shows. Like, this woman's doing fashion shows and worried about her teeth and all this. That's what she's trying to talk about, her teeth in the middle of this. I understand that she comes and talks to us like it's a housewife, like catty, kind of like sister girl, and like she's from Compton, kind of, using her hands, boo-boo, all of this stuff. But she's from where again?
Omaha, Nebraska. That's what I saw.
Now, somebody will say, don't they have ghetto people in Omaha, Nebraska? Not when you grow up with two professors. This woman she's basically black-facing while black. That's what a lot of her character is. And I think fundamentally what Biden wants to do is paint his campaign black with her. When you looked at that Anita Hill tweet, if you were to pull it back up for like just a second and let everybody see the bottom, it had 14,000 retweets. Well, that's because she came off the Bernie Sanders campaign, and black people and leftists supported her. So now you're going to use that energy and sell it to Biden? Why do you get to do that? I don't understand what this is. I believe this woman got to go. Now, I'm telling y'all right now, what's kind of going on right now is these women and women like this are trying to hustle black women. Let me explain what they're doing. So I'm feeling like what's going to happen overall is they're not going to give you reparations, they're going to give you aberration. So what they do is they find somebody like Symone Sanders, who, let me explain why she's an aberration. This is a young woman with 2 professors for parents that grew up in Omaha.
2 professionals, yeah.
Omaha is like 2 professionals for parents. And essentially what they do is they find these people who are not reflective, because we know the data and we know the numbers of Black America in the center or even in the bottom 85th percentile, 90th percentile. And they run around and they don't even act like what they saw at home. They claim Black people on TV and in videos and stuff. And I think one of the things that's happening with Black women is funny, because when we talk about ADOS, everybody calls it divisive. But what she does isn't divisive. What she does is try to reorient Blackness around womanness instead of like how you actually grew up Black, because she grew up like an aberration. So we can't really talk about the fact that because you're boomerhood, you really don't know what we're going through. What we do is reorient it around making you actually the center of Blackness because you're a Black and a woman. None of that shit is true. It's just not true. Like the reality of it all is, my mama, like I told y'all before, was a single parent. And she had me real young. I know a lot about Black women that have babies without parents, without a husband, and without a... She don't. I don't know how she can speak to you better than me if you out there raising your kid by yourself. She can't. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell it to you straight, because she will tell you the other side. And I feel like what's happening is that she's trying to make this about not accepting Black men, and I'm trying to make this about ADOS. And, like, I don't know what you're going to choose. I'm just saying right now, what she's showing is that she'll throw you to the side for Biden at any second. Because at least she needs to be committed to that principle. And I don't even agree with that principle of just Black womanness alone, but at least be committed to that. And no one that's committed to that says what she said about Anita Hill and then supports Joe Biden. This is one of the most awful political correspondent moves I've seen in quite some time. And I don't know if y'all really get, because we don't really have a group that understands anything but never Trump, how she gotta go. Because I'm looking at what's going on around us, from Tracy Ellis Ross to Jordan Peele to Barack Obama. This system is planning to say, y'all deal with the slavery that come from like 4 ADOS grandparents that don't have much, all throughout Atlanta, Georgia, and Mississippi and Louisiana and the ghettos of South Central and the ghettos of Chicago. Y'all deal with that. What we gonna go out and find is people from Iowa or Idaho, real random Black people. And we gonna take them and we gonna elevate them and let them speak for all y'all and perform y'all for us so we feel comfortable. We gonna find a Barack Obama who grew up white, and then has a Kenyan daddy, and let him say he's African American. We gonna find a Kamala Harris who grew up Indian, and then has an Indian, like a Jamaican dad, maybe Jamaican Indian, and we gonna elevate her as African American. We gonna find Jordan Peele, who grew up white, Manhattan, didn't even know his Black parents, and we gonna elevate them. I don't know what that you understand what happens next if you have full ADOS background, let alone even like large part. You get left with slavery. She's part of the problem. Right now, we saw the early polls. Biden's too high up for his background. I don't know what Black America's going to do to push him down. I just know some of y'all got to have a internal fight in your house, because this letting your grandma and your daddy say, "Oh, I like Biden," and then sit with you, it ain't gonna work. Y'all gonna have to have that talk, like, because Biden is awful. You listen to what he says. You know what he's done. If the people in your own home have decided that they're still going to support him, you got to wonder, am I going to support you? It's that bad, what he's done. We got to understand, can you pull up the Barack Obama-Biden picture? In 2008, we didn't really have these tools that we have now to siphon through things, nor do we understand the risk that me and Yvette are doing. I don't think that y'all get it in terms of, like, and I'm not saying this to say it in any kind of demeaning way, but I don't think you guys get it, that we don't have to do this shows and this stuff, and nobody else really is doing it. Like a few other people, they don't show their face sometimes or all this. I'm talking about where we out front and we educated, where we could go loophole out of it. What I'm saying to you is right now in 2008, nobody was doing it. And there was no technological way to do this. But Obama knew all this stuff about Biden and still chose him. What does that say about what he thought about you guys as Black voters? I think one of the things that we got to start to understand is when you go the route that Symone Sanders went, where she basically carves out black girl magic from the rest of black America and black men, you're basically saying that the 60 or 65% of blacks and black males throughout these cities are living the most concentrated version of black failure are basically less blacks than you that grew up in Omaha with two professional parents. I mean, less entrenched in blackness than you. How do you get to say that? What are you talking about? See, part of being 29 is not knowing enough. And right now, she don't know enough to speak for you. And I'm gonna let this go, but I'm just telling you that I had a similar issue with Dark Hamilton with the college pay gap. And we saw the same thing. It's like everybody just runs to black women and tells them everything they want to hear. But that's not the answer. Elizabeth Warren getting rid of student loans is a white wealth transfer, period. That's what it is. Now, at the end of the day, if you're going to give us reparations and also a black agenda, can it be good on top of that? Possibly, but not as structured. But black women that have student loans, you got to understand it's not just about you individually. It's about the fact that who's going to benefit most from this program and what's left over politically afterwards. You can't let nobody play these games around black girl magic and sisterhood, because right now that's the game. The game is to divide the black vote, particularly among black women, and then give you guys crumbs. And find somebody like Symone Sanders, because they went for Stacey Abrams first, that's going to do something to make y'all feel like on an identity politics level you're going to vote for them. And I don't see how anyway you should vote for Joe Biden. Not unless he talk about he going to give trillions of dollars reparations. And even then, I don't know. All right, Yvette, I'll let it go.
All right. Appreciate it, Tom. As always. Yeah, like, people talk about divide and conquer. Divide and conquer is really what's going on right now, separating black women from black men. And that's what that little slick stuff she said right here, like, that's what that was about. That was about dividing the group. Like, and like having black women over here with white women, and like, oh, black men, they're just so stupid. They don't know nothing. Like, that's what it is. And we don't get anything if we don't collectively mobilize as a group. If we don't mobilize as a group, we're finished. It's just finished. It's just over. Like, we have to mobilize as a collective. There can't be this little silly split with like, yes, I am woman, hear me wrong, child. Anyway, I'm going to 954. I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Good evening, Yvette. I finally got through.
Oh, good.
Hi, Yvette?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Yes, I finally got through, and I have to thank you. I am a boomer.
Okay.
I don't have any wealth. I'm still struggling, but I'll tell you something. My entire family is coming to the conference.
I look forward to meeting you.
You're doing a fantastic job with you and Tone, and I can't, you know what? I'm 74 years old.
That's fine.
And I'm ready. I'm ready for my reparations. And I'll tell you one other thing. I am not going to vote just to keep Trump out. I am not. If they can't come up with a package and tell me what they're going to do for black folks, for my children and my grandchildren, then they might as well just forget it. And I don't care, because Trump has not done a darn thing for me. Obama has not done a darn thing for me, and the Democrats have not done a darn thing. So if anybody want my vote, they have to tell me what can they do for me. So I'm gonna again keep up the good work.
Thank you. I appreciate
your show.
All right, look forward to seeing you in October. Appreciate it, fam.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I think, listen, some people would tell you that, well, judges are important. Yeah, they're important, but I don't think people understand our situation and what we need. Judges do not pull us out of the hole that we're in. See, if you have almost the same wealth as white people, and as white America, then it's like, okay, we just need judges to do affirmative action or the Voting Rights Act and make it. But we're nowhere near that. We are a community in collapse. That's what the data tells us. So what I have shouted to Democratic nominees right now is that you have to go back to the drawing board. Like this stuff that you've been doing, the sentiment that she just shared is throughout. It's throughout ADOS America. That is the sentiment. The sentiment is that, listen, we're not going to take one for the team. We're not going to just go out just to get a Democrat, and so we get somebody, we get somebody liberal in these judgeships or whatever. It's not enough. And the racial wealth gap and the expression of that shows you that we live that reality. So what I implore all Democratic candidates to do is that the stuff that worked on Black America a long time ago, or 4 years ago, or 8 years ago, or whatever, it's not going to work anymore. Like, that doesn't work anymore. You have to draft a new plan with actual Black agenda items specific to ADOS people. You have to do that. And if you don't believe that you have to do that, I think the woman's call right now is an expression of, like, you in danger. You think this is going to be a cakewalk, and that everybody else is just as invested as you are, just getting Trump out of there. We got people who can't eat. We got college grads driving Uber and all sorts of stuff. This is our life. This is the life that ADOS people are living. You got to go back to the drawing board. You got to go fix it. You got to go fix this stuff you walking around, this lift at Kamala and this, and all this other stuff is not good enough. You all got to go back. Honestly, y'all should all go to a retreat and with your staffers and figure out what your ADOS agenda is going to look like, and bring it back to us and let us assess it. It just is what it is. I'm going now to 213. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette.
Hey.
This is Miko out in L.A.
Oh, what's going on, Miko?
I saw the Friday show.
Okay.
And I have to be honest, I was really stunned. First of all, hats off to you and Tone. Some of the old excuses are when a Black person is running, like an Obama. Oh, they kind of have to say that, and the thing is, we're hoping that they're signaling. But if on the other end of the 8 years, it turns out that was really policy, then you have to ruin their value proposition. Because these people have a value proposition. And so that's why, Obama is the crown jewels for the Democratic Party. So when you see that you have an elected official, a Black elected official, who brought you a Rahm Emanuel, like you guys pointed out, who brought you a Joe Biden, then you have to say, dude, that's not signaling. This is your policy. Because on the end of this 8 years, the Black community is on the ropes. Traditionally, Black organizations are on the ropes. That wasn't signaling.
Yeah.
That was policy.
Yeah.
If we see that college students are, just weighed down with this debt, that was not signaling. That was policy. So if you look up, there's something called the Smith Act, or Smith-Mundt Act. Obama signed that in 2012, and basically it allows the State Department to publish, basically fake stories within the United States. They used to be able to do propaganda outside, but now they can do it inside. This goes back to the Judith Miller, Dick Cheney stuff. So Obama signed this law, and that codified that. So then you look at a Lewis, and he talks about Selma, but he just signed on to the bill that says the IRS will not provide a free tax solution for, people who need to fill out their taxes. Yeah. And of course, it turns out, because there was the promise that the paid guys would make their free product, continue to be available. So you don't get to talk about the ass whooping you took in Selma 50 years ago, but then knowing how affected our community is, you go run out and sign onto a bill that basically says that people are going to have to pay the expense of filing their taxes. No, you don't get to be the crown jewels of the Democratic Party. If you're Barack Obama, you don't get to be the crown jewels. They don't get to parade you out anymore. So we're going to have to really go back and start doing a post-mortem on some of these relationships.
That's something that we don't do.
Have, and
we don't do that enough, though. We don't go back and make assessments. We just like to keep going. Well, all right. Well, did you see you made a mess? I got to go. I can't be bothered. No, you got to figure this out. You got to look at this. Like, we just like to keep moving. Like, just not see. It's like we just like to be blind and not, like, go back and, like, admit you made a mistake. Because I caught hell during the Obama years for telling ADOS people, like, this is a mistake. Like, this man is a mistake. Like, I knew that very early on. And I caught hell. And nobody, like, I got maybe a few people who said, you know, you were right. Everybody else is like, well, I don't want to talk about the past. I don't know why you stay stuck in the past. I stay stuck in the past because you don't learn from it. That's why I stay stuck in it. It's that simple.
I think part of it is we're just hoping and praying, and we're so thirsty. You know, you're like a plant that hasn't had any sun and you haven't had any water. And so we're so thrilled to have someone out there that looks like us. But again, as you guys have shown, and just like Tone just mentioned, if you look at the rap game, you're seeing the same exact hustle. Everybody that is on top of the game has all these other attributes. They're not ADOS. So this hustle that they have, even you look at Issa Rae, I think she is not ADOS. So you're seeing the same hustle in every single industry. Again, this is a plan. This is systematic, and they are continuing to keep us down. You know, in politics, not politics, you know, you used to circle the mode, you know, put a community under siege, so you could do that to a kingdom, but that's what they've been doing to the black community. So if someone couldn't sell you a house, basically that community was under siege. If they could redline you, then again, that community is under siege. So they do this internationally, but this is what they've always done to us. So if they will not allow resources in, if they will not allow jobs in, if they won't allow loans in, if they won't allow education in, if all they have for you is a bullet and a jail, then you're basically under siege. You know, and so really and truly, that's what our community is. So we have to hold everybody to task. You don't get to be, you got pretty little girls and you wonderful wife, that's cool. We know a whole bunch of ADOS people, same attributes, and they were not president and they were not damaging to our community.
Yeah,
you know, so we have to get off of this foolishness and this fuckery and stop playing with folks and let them know, look, we're not playing. You're not going to get to come up in here and wear our skin and screw us and then go shuck and jive for them. We're going to have to ruin that value proposition. And when the Democratic Party can no longer, you know, get some capital and some mileage out of these kind of folks, then they'll stop playing that game. But that's all contingent on us. Again, props to you.
No, you're right.
Breaking Brown family, keep it going. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. But you're right. Like, what he said is right. Like the same way the ADOS family, and you know, the same way we all got this reparations conversation going that, you know, that some people won't give us credit for, that's fine. But like, that goes to show you that it doesn't have to be everybody. It doesn't all, like, we did this with us. We did this with our group, fam. This is us. This is the Breaking Brown family, the Tone Toss family, the ADOS family that heard about it. We created this whole conversation. Imagine what happens if we stay on code and we continue to grow as a group. Imagine what that looks like in terms of our politics. But we have to stand our ground. It's still too many people that come to me. Well, Yvette, I think they really want to negotiate. Negotiate with who? About what? We built the country and we're the most impoverished and the most oppressed over time. What are you negotiating about? Just give me what you owe. Now, it don't all have to happen, like I said, at one time. We can talk about how it has to happen over years. It's a big amount of money, I understand. But I live in the richest country in the world, so I know you can pay it. You just have to get it. You have to, listen, if one thing ADOS people understand is payment plans. We understand payment plans. We can put together a payment plan, and we can have a complex conversation about all the things that need to happen for ADOS people, and you can make that right. You can make that right, and that's the direction that these candidates need to head in. And based on the kind of lives that we live, we have no obligation or responsibility to be in support of anything that doesn't have a group of specific agenda items for us. Specifically for us, not carve outs for people of color or whoever else. For us. We're all way more than that, but these people are even coming up with an agenda for us. What am I supposed to do with that? So I'm telling all of y'all, go back to the drawing board. You go regret it if you don't. Go back to the drawing board. Come back. Go look at the data, the racial wealth gap, all that. Go look at all that stuff. Come back with the plan. I'm going now to 313. 313, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, this is Gigi from Detroit.
Hey, what's going on?
Just so glad to be on the phone with you. Been holding on strong, listening to both you and Tone. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Out here on Twitter, holding it down at Maserati Gigi. Go ahead and follow me. I know I'll be tweeting at you, but you like the tweets, but you ain't follow back yet. It's all right, girl.
It's a lot of people, fam. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. What's on your mind?
You are so right about Joe Biden and that damn Symone. She's just an opportunist all the way through and through, and we've been saw through her, and there's so many other imposters just like her all over the TV, but we got you guys now, and we're a lot more politically savvy. We fell for the okie doke back when Obama was out here because we were just so excited for a blackface.
Yeah.
Never anymore.
Yeah, I think we learned from it. I think, well, not everybody, not enough. That's the problem. Like, even with us, like, we out here fighting with people and people don't know. People don't know. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But I want to thank you, fam. I appreciate
they're starting to know. They're starting to know.
Yeah.
I mean, the receipts are there. I mean, everybody's seen that footage of him talking all kind of crazy, and he's been making policies. The track record is there.
That's true.
Before, nobody was really pulling those receipts and really verifying these people's track records. Now people are more interested in that, and that's pushing the movement forward.
No, I agree. I agree.
On Twitter, we really need to, watch what we're saying, stay with the data and the facts, and not get wrapped up in emotional talk.
Yeah, and thank you, fam. I appreciate you calling in. And not only not get wrapped up in emotional talk, you can't let these people drive you crazy because they crazy. Like, because people are crazy, they can't drive you crazy. Drop the knowledge or whatever you got to do and move on. Like, find the data, find the chart. We put all that stuff in here. Find it, drop it, and keep it moving. You don't have to talk. You can mute the person, block the person, do whatever you want to do. But drop the answer and move on. These people will drive you crazy because they crazy. Like, there's a lot of instability online. People who are invested in believing certain things and understanding certain things that they don't understand. There's a lot going on online, and you can't drive yourself. I'm not gonna drive myself batty because half of the people on Twitter is crazy. You say it, you answer the question authoritatively. Keep it moving. I'm going now to 973. 973, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Yvette? This is caller from New Jersey.
What's going on?
I want to say, Tone, man. Hey, what's going on? That show Tone put on Friday. That show was so important, and I must admit, I really wasn't caught up in the Obama hype. I was kind of like where you were, so I took a lot of slack. Jokingly, I even had aunts that deleted me from social media because I was
I had me too.
Obama. So I feel your pain. But however, one thing Obama did, one thing effectively that he did do, he did sell Biden real well, and I really didn't know what Tone, the information that Tone gave on Friday. And when we talk about sellouts, for years we have been letting people that get on these like Symone Sanders, the Oprah Winfrey's, and they were going with this narrative that, somehow black people were accusing them of acting white because they were articulate. And for years, as a black collective, we let that narrative just run wild. We had Martin Luther King, we had Malcolm X. Were they not articulate? Did we accuse them of being white?
Yeah.
We were more or less talking about when people get in these spaces and they basically advocate for us, claim that they're advocating for us, but they're not. That's really what we were talking about when we accused some of these people of acting white. We might not have had the language to articulate that, but to say, so those tropes from this day forward have to be put to rest. that black people are anti-intellectual, and this is the reason why we despise people on these different platforms that have education and articulate.
But let me say one other thing, fam. One other part of it is too, like, people don't understand, even with this acting white thing. Nerds get made fun of, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not making a value judgment right now. But kids make fun of nerds in both races. That's, and it's also a fact that, like, when you get accused of talking white, it's not usually because you're articulate. When you talk about talking white, I said this before on this show, it's because you change the octave of your voice. Like, you go from talking like I talk right now to you walk into a room like, oh my God, I like that. I love it so much. It's the best thing you could have done, Jordan. Like, and it's just like, what's going on with Yvette? It's not because I'm talking more articulate. It's because I have intentionally changed the octave of my voice to sound like they sound. Like, it's never been about, like, whether or not you're articulate. It's about what are you doing. Like, when we saw Chris Rock in that room, when he was with those white companies, like, these guys, these are my guys. And it was like, who is he? Like, you're talking the octave. You've changed your octave. Like, you real high. And you was real low. But when you get around me, man, I tell you, I hate. But when you get around them, I tell y'all, but what's going on with this guy? This is my guy. And it's just like, what, you talking white? Not because you've intentionally changed the way your voice sounds. That's what it means. It's not about whether or not you're articulate. I don't know where people got that from.
Right, but I would say that when we allow, I mean, not saying we allow, but we also have to identify when black people get on public platforms and they make those accusations about the black collective, that's definitely not being on code.
I agree.
And just before I close, it's two questions I wanted to ask. First, I understand Symone Sanders. We can even throw, the Jason Whitlocks in there. Are they more dangerous than the media outlets that's giving them the platform to do what they do?
I think they are.
The media outlets.
I think they are. I think they're more dangerous than the media outlets, because, like, the media outlet needs them to communicate with us. Like, if the media outlet is all white, right, and there's no ADOS people there, we kind of take a side eye to the media. Like, I'm talking about us specifically. Not them. I'm talking about us specifically. We don't have a connection to that media. There's nobody there who's really speaking our language. We don't see any, like, we're less inclined. Like, some people see Angela Rye and they see Symone Sanders, or they see Bakari Sellers, he a good brother. Or when Roland Martin was there, oh yeah, I like Roll, we show up to see them. I think that in terms of who we are, we don't really show up like that as a group. Not in terms of ADOS. Most of us here probably don't even watch that on a regular basis. But what I'm saying is, I don't think we show up as a group the same way if they're not there. So in terms of who ADOS are, I think they're very dangerous, because they are the thing that connects us to that network and makes us have a kind of affinity for a network that we shouldn't have an affinity for, and make us kind of believe news because of the person who is kind of putting that news through to us, when we don't really understand that they're just parroting talking points from somebody else.
Right, but I mean, I agree with that, but I mean, the minute we the minute that Symone Sanders stepped down, there's a lot of other people to replace her and do the exact same thing.
That's the problem. Yeah. That's the problem. But one of the problems, you don't get, like, we don't say, like, you could, we ain't doing this no more. You can't come back to the salon. You can't come back to the barber shop. Right. We'll cut a big gap in your head. Like, we don't really say, like, we don't show any kind of disapproval. And I'm not even talking about, I'm joking. I'm not even talking about punishment, but we don't even show any kind of disapproval for people who do this. We have to start disapproving of people who are not on code. And then people are going to say, listen, if I go do this, I got to do it right. And they might not let me do it right. And maybe I don't do it at all. But I'm going to be disapproved of by my group if I go here and I do what they did. I see what that looks like. We have to start making assessments of these people and how they move on these networks and in these rooms. We have to do that.
Right. I'm going to close. Let the other callers get in. There's another thing. When we talk about the division of the sexes, and shameless plug. This is the question presented by Gus T. Renegade from the Cows. And NPR did a piece on the black woman vote and how the Democrats have to campaign for the black woman vote. And when was the last time that any news outlet ever campaigned for the black male vote? And Dusty Renegade presented it like this: have anybody ever heard any media outlet campaigning for the black male vote? Or or is it when they talk about the black male vote, it's always talking about how we're disenfranchised and how, you know, we need to get felons the right to vote. So I mean, do you think that this is a deliberate scheme, like a divide and conquer kind of tactic from the news media to kind of like make black men kind of like obsolete, or, you know, listen, girls, forget them, it's about y'all?
Well, no, I don't think it's about making black men obsolete. I think, listen, I think ADOS, first of all, as a group, the reason we get so much pushback online is because everybody's used to using us. And so nobody knows what to do with that once we're requiring people to be accountable. But I think in terms of what you're saying, the whole point of it is for division. The whole point of it is to divide, because they know, like, if they divide and the black women over here and they pointing at the black men saying, see, we the ones really doing stuff, y'all ain't doing nothing, and the black men's are like, screw y'all ain't nothing. No, like, they know that, like, this group doesn't go anywhere. Like, you go as a group, you go as units, that like this unit, that's how you move. And I think the whole aim of it is to just is to divide us. Like, the whole aim of this is to divide us as a group and keep us fighting. That's why I don't like all the gender sniping I see so much, is because, like, that we can't move forward politically with all of this. We got to get this together. We won't be here to snipe about anything. You won't have no relationships. You'll be starved out. Like, that's what happens. You get starved out economically. You can't have a relationship if you starved out economically. So I think we have to understand that this is social engineering that is used to create division, and that's just what it is. And nothing more than that. And I appreciate you calling in, fam. I got to get to another call, but I appreciate it. But this is just what it is. Like, people talk about divide and conquer, like, oh, well, you opposed to the celebrity. No, that's not the divide and conquer we're talking about. They're trying to divide this and cleave off black women and attach black women to white women and make that a group. So you're not a group of racially. You're a group that's over here. You're a group that's over here, with white, and that's not who we are. Like, you don't even get any benefit from that. What benefit do you get from that? What? Just tell me. So, that's what it is. I'm going to 770. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, how you doing today?
Pretty good. How you?
All right. Okay. I'm doing good. I see we talking about cold, being on cold, so.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yes. Yes. So I wanted to just add in, we really need to focus on making sure that, we're being a little bit cleaner about how we communicate to each other. I heard a caller say that earlier tonight about, online when we're speaking with each other. We need to just really make sure we're a little bit cleaner about that. And then we also need to make sure that we're leveraging, what we want. We have every opportunity to, kind of speak about what we want. But a lot of the times you get sucked into, like, these wormholes of all this, drama and all of that. So we really need to focus in on, what we want as a group. And I like how you're talking about, not letting, the different outlets, divide us, because I know that's something that's really a major thing that goes on, and we tend to let other, I guess you would call them, pseudo leaders,
mm-hmm.
Take that and really kind of run with it. And, you have all these people going all these different ways. So if we could just focus on what we want as a group, I think that's something that we can, have in common and focus in on without letting all these other outlets divide us. So
I appreciate it.
That's just something I wanted to add.
Okay, I appreciate it, Colin. Thanks for calling in. This call came all of a sudden. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think we have to focus on. It's easy, and you need to focus in on some of, like, when people are using fallacies, right? Like, it's all kinds of red herrings and stuff people use, arguments you didn't make. Focus on what's important. Focus on what the priority is. If you're in a debate with somebody, just throw that data up and leave it there. You don't have to keep going back and seeing what they said. Mute them, block them, put it up, and move on. Like, be very effective in what you do. You don't have to be there forever in that fight. So yeah, I think that's interesting commentary. I am going now to 206. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Yvette, this is Joey from Seattle. It is an honor to finally speak to you directly.
What's going on, Joey?
I'm gonna get right to it.
Okay.
I be on these Twitter streets and I be banging for ABOS 24/7.
I appreciate it.
Now, I'm gonna say right now, I just wanted to thank you for this. I have always, ever since I was a little boy, always wanted to be a part of a slave revolt in this country. And you finally allowed me to do so. And to answer your question about what being on code is,
okay.
It is a very, very simple question to people. It is friend or foe. It is pay up time, not just for this American government, but for everybody who's been living here thanks to us. We need to know all this goodwill we've been directing towards you. Is you going to pay up now? If you love, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I'm old enough to remember when the internet first came out. You remember you used to get them AOL discs in the mail?
I remember, yeah, I used to get them.
After a while, they let you use the internet. And after a while, they say, hey, I know you like this good internet we've been giving you. If you want to keep getting this good service, your bill will be X amount of money.
Yeah.
If you'd like all the good services you've enjoyed in this country, such as freedom and justice and the American way, please pay ADOS what is due. That is it.
And that's for everybody. That's for everybody. That includes everybody. When you build a country, that includes everybody. You right, fam. You ain't lied today. You might have lied, but you ain't lied today. You want to finish out with anything, fam? They might be gone. Oh, fam, gone. But he said you got to pay your bills. You got bills to pay. It's just it just is what it is. I'm going right now to 312. 312. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette.
Yeah.
Hello?
I'm here. What's going on?
It's good to hear you. I'm calling from Chicago. You know, I've got a concern. A young man named Jason called a couple weeks ago. Tom said it last Friday. You said it. Otis said. Back in the day, we used to call these foundational books that we talk about. I'm not going to read off the list. You know, the case for reparations, the article, how many people read it, how many people can spit the black agenda, the ADOS 101 agenda. See, we don't need to get debate with ignorant people. You know, if I had a fifth grader put 2 to the second power plus 2 to the second power on the board and ask for what they equal, the fifth grader would probably say 4, because he hasn't had any math beyond just arithmetic. So, you know, debating with people, what I do, I drop links to videos, drop links to books, and just walk away from it, because you get very, very frustrated.
Yeah, you get inundated too.
Talking to ignorant people. You know, back in the day, one of my teachers said, and I'm going to say it kind of slower, there's no difference between a person that can't read and won't read. They're both ignorant. And the one that can read and won't read is worse off than the one that can't read. See, so I know a lot of people don't have time to be reading the books. You know, you can go to YouTube and you get caught up in this thing. I've been doing 2-3 hours a day just studying videos, reading books, going back, revisiting books that I read in the 60s, because we had what was known back in the 60s during the revolutionary struggle, people known as conversational dropouts, because people would be referencing books in our day, 40 Acres and a Mule, you know, in the 21st century. Oh, you know, in the color law, it's Rothstein said, you know, we used to reference, you know, anybody who's in college, you know, you got to do citations.
Yeah, you got to.
You got to be funny. I know only 20% of our people been to college, but Lord knows, you can't be talking about what you feel and what do you know. You know, what's your point of reference? Drop the facts on them. Drop the war sticks on them, as we used to call them, and you shut people down and we can keep moving. You know, I would hope that other people that's listening to the sound of my voice would re-emphasize that to other of the vanguard of the ADOS movement to reference and give back factual information to these people and drop questions on people. Did you know that when your daddy got out of World War II, his white buddy that was in the foxhole with him went and got an FHA loan and bought a house for $40,000 that's worth $750,000 today, and your daddy had to go buy a house on contract.
And they never accrue any value.
It's on the people at the barbershop, it shuts them down. What's your feeling about that?
No, I think so. And the house that never accrued any value. He had to live in. He never got any equity, so he couldn't use it as an ATM machine to put you through school, and that's your life. Yeah, I think you have to put it like you don't like. I like the citation, but I don't like necessarily just leaving the book. I like leaving the quotation or the chart or whatever, and then walking away. Because what you find is that like a lot of these people are like they just want to be nasty, and they've made up their minds. So you have to put what it is. This is what it is. This is the facts. Like you don't know the facts. Here's the fact. Now I'm gonna put the fact out there, and now you can walk away. And I'm gonna walk away because I'm not gonna be here in this rabbit hole with you forever. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that to myself. I'm not gonna be frustrated. I'm not gonna do it.
Even amongst us, we need to have continue to have intelligent conversations by dropping facts, dropping links to information. A sister I know, she'll have a ticket coming in October. I got mine on March 4th. I had enough sense to know where this thing was going to jump on and get my 2 tickets. But anyway, to share video links with other people that's in the movement, give them more ammunition.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Instead of trying to join the debate club, I have a daughter to go to Arizona State. She's a great debater, but I'm not a debater.
Yeah.
I'm just a communicator. I share information trying to educate people in the barbershop, in the beauty shop. You're wasting your time. Sir Rock's a couple pages out of the case for reparations, or when affirmative action was white, and dropping on people the color law.
Yeah.
And I could just go on and on and on and on and on. And this will help us, and it helps me as an individual being part of the vanguard to inspire people to want to know more about making the case. If you've been to law school, you got to make the case. Everybody's trying to talk about what they want to get on the back end. We ain't even got to talk about what we can get on the back. We already know we old, but we need to make the case because there's so many ignorant white folks and black folks that don't even know that we even got a case. Because if you can't articulate your case, then you're not going to be able to make your case. And
no,
with that,
you're right.
This is enough to make a Negro turn black.
All right, fam. I get it. I appreciate you calling in, fam. I appreciate it. But yeah, I think the takeaway from your call, fam, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna try to make let a couple people get in here. Is that you got to be able to make your case. You got to be able to make your case and make it as concise as possible, and not let these people get you emotionally off your center, because that's what they love to do. They like to needle you. Well, what about the no, I'm not gonna let you needle me into saying something I don't want to say, so you can say, aha, I told you that's what they was like. And I'm not gonna spend a lot of time with you. I'm not like wasting too much time. I'm gonna do what I gotta do, and I'm gonna move. And that's just is what it is. I'm going now to 804. I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? You there, 804?
Hey, Yvette.
Hey, what's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I'm doing well. Hold on, let me change my audio. Okay. Hey, this is Josh. I'm calling from the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay.
I'm glad I finally got to call in. It's always been hard to call in, man. I'm excited just for the energy, for the people that are excited about this reparation movement and claim.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got to give a big shout out to you and Tone and everybody that's making this happen, because just a little bit of background about me and kind of what I wanted to talk about was I went to HBCU, I went to Virginia State,
mm-hmm.
and when I was there, I learned about a lot of different things dealing with different schools of thought, and that just led me. But I was always trying to figure out something, the answer to something to do with like why are we in the conditions we're in, and all the different schools of thought. Something was missing, and the economic data was the missing piece. And when I got this economic data right here, it all made sense, because you can't, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And I just want to say what you guys are doing is very, very key because, going through HBCU, I didn't really get, it's a shame, I didn't really get, and this is not a knock on Virginia State or anybody, or any college, but I didn't get a good political grounded education. And I want to say with the younger generation, I'm 34 years old, but with our younger generation, I'm just seeing that we have some serious problems that generations before us didn't have to face, especially economically. Student loan debt and all this stuff is through the ceiling, and the perceptions that we used to see, like you guys talked about the decadent veil, those things are, they're still trying to hold on, but they're not as prevalent. Now we're just trying to figure out, what are we gonna do? And like you guys said, we got to do politics, but it's a shame that it's taken me to 34 years old to realize that we got to do politics. There's no other way around it. To do for self. And it was funny. I was having a conversation with a mentor of mine and a guy I respected for ever since I was in college. And, real successful guy. It's a brother, ADOS, and he always made a lot of money. And when I was going to talk to him about this message, I expected him to be among the do-for-selfers a little bit. But when I talked to him, he was talking about, like, yeah, you're right. What I always been talking about is doing for self, as far as, because all we can do is help our personal situation and make money. But as far as us saving the collective, it's got to be reparations. There's no do for self. So I was really encouraged to hear that. And I want to say one more thing. These political, I guess you could call them political operatives, like Symone Sanders, and the ones that they always like to use, they are a problem. They're a problem because it's a shame that, yes, she's younger, but these people, a lot of the older generations are still hung on the Democratic Party. They get influenced by those people. And so, like, it's hard, the conversations I have to have sometimes with, like, my parents, my mom, or family members, and things like that. These are tough conversations to get them back on the right side of politics. Because, like I said, I wasn't really taught the politics like this in college. And I think that's something that's extremely key that the younger generation has to learn. And I'm kind of rambling on.
Let me just say this, fam. Let me just say this, fam. Like, what we didn't do, and this is a condemnation on all of America, not just us, especially all of America. But like, our parents did not push for that kind of curriculum. Like, we need an honest curriculum about race in America. Like, the Reconstruction PBS should be shown in every school in America, period. And that's just one thing to show, like, to teach what race did to us. Like, that's the kind of thing that really leads the groundwork to reparations, because then people have an honest assessment of how they benefited from, I don't care how long ago, whatever, slavery, and it wasn't long ago, we all know that. But like, they have an honest assessment and understanding of how they benefited from whiteness and been able to access whiteness, and other groups who aren't white, who are brown, but still access whiteness. Everybody has to understand that. That needs to be in the school curriculum. When you come to this country, that needs to be in what you have to learn for your citizenship. All of that. Like we've had this erasure, and the problem is our leaders and parents, haven't focused on, like, what is my child's curriculum, or what are all children's curriculum in these schools? Are people learning about our contribution? We have not made that part of our fight. Our parents and grandparents didn't make that a part of their fight. And that has to be a part of the fight so that people know. And so that's why, though, when we did this, people say, like, Yvette, why didn't you just start off talking activism? No, you have to give people a political education first, or it doesn't work, or none of it works. It has to be anchored in a political education and understanding of who we are as a group, what our history is, what our contribution is. If you don't anchor it in that, it's just worthless.
Yes.
And it's going to fizzle out.
I remember what I was trying to say now. I was trying to say my political education was always hooked to the Democratic Party that was saying our agenda. So I think that's the biggest problem, because, and I think I speak for a lot of people coming up. When we think about politics, we just automatically think, okay, what is the Democratic Party talking about? And then we associate that with us trying to get some type of indirect benefit as a result of that, as opposed to us already having a perspective of us having an agenda, and it being, because I think about it, like, if we look at our voting populace, and it's a reason the Democratic Party always needs us. It's because there's a huge amount of independents, a huge amount of people on the other side, and we are critical to the Democratic voting success. So how is it that we don't have an agenda, and how is it that kids coming up don't understand that we're supposed to have an agenda for us, and not just trying to pray for indirect benefit?
Well, because
from the left. So that's kind of what I'm saying.
I appreciate it, fam. I'm gonna let you go after this, but I'm gonna answer your question offline. I think part of the reason that we don't understand that is because, like, our leaders don't have an agenda. Like, we don't have any leaders who are specifically for us outside of party, because it's really hard to eat that way. Like, it's really hard to eat that way. It's really hard to, like, have a life, right? And so, like, what you find is that, because we're a poor group, what you find is that those people become, like, try to be representatives for us. Like, you just look at Al Sharpton. Like, he's meeting with all these. He met with Buttigieg, and he met with Kamala. He met with all these people, but he's really not representing the National Action Network. They got a bunch of PO boxes. He's really representing, like, MSNBC. So, like, he has this MSNBC job, and he's trying to represent black people, and it doesn't even really work. It's not a fit. You're not really representing us in any way. And then, like, we won't even call it, like, that might be Wednesday's show. So, like, how do you get to represent us when you did that during Obama's reign, and we're worse off? Like, aren't you a failure? Like, in terms of what your charge was. And why do you keep getting to be a failure some more? It doesn't make much sense. So I'm going to my next call. I'm going to 617. 617, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's going on?
Hey, Yvette, it's Reggie. What's going on?
What's going on, Reggie? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. This is a good show. And, since we're discussing a black woman in particular in terms of Symone Sanders tonight, I wanted to dial in on a couple of things. I don't want to presume to speak for all of black men, but I do want to let you know, along with many other black women that I see moving on the ground, y'all are quintessential examples of what it means to be on code in terms of this push for ADOS. I've seen other folks in the past who may have criticized or even outright attacked you in the past, but they've decided to put aside those differences for a black agenda. And I just want to salute you, Yvette.
Thank you.
And ADOS in particular, how you have been gracious throughout this process of it all. Let's tell the truth. So, and I also want to salute those people, specifically the men, for putting those differences aside. And again, I want to support you, Yvette, because a lot of these recent criticisms, it's been just against you, Yvette. They're not really throwing these shots at Tone like they are at you for some reason. Even though you and Tone are saying the same things. Let's be honest.
Yeah, we in sync. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to stay on code. It's about an agenda. And again, I want to salute the ADOS women who, and I've seen a particular acumen and talent for gathering information and organizing on the ground. Absolutely. I just want to let you know that I see y'all, and just in terms of the aggressive organizational work, it really reminds me of the groundwork that a lot of black women did during the Garvey movement here in the United States. And when it comes to people like, whether it's Symone Sanders working for Biden, or even Nina working for Sanders. I don't know what they're talking about. Me personally, I'm aligning myself with the working class ADOS women who are fighting for a black agenda, fighting for specificity, fighting for reparations. You know, this intersectional con game, this tokenism. I'm just letting the Democratic Party know it's not going to work in 2020 because there is not any structural problem that black women in this country are experiencing that white supremacy did not cause. Point blank, period. So you can try out Symone, you can try out Nina, and I think honestly, because we haven't seen Stacey in the media, is because she understands. You know, even though you've had some criticisms, Yvette, she's kind of fell to the background when Biden tried to openly recruit her because she understands that contradiction. From Georgia, where the KKK was running around, the lynchings, the terrorism, the voter suppression, Stacey understands. And I feel like a lot of ADOS women also understand. This tokenism is not going to work. So I say to the Democratic Party, if you are serious about recruiting the black vote and specifically the ADOS women's vote, you have to come with something tangible.
Yeah.
Black women they're not stupid. You look at the data, they get the most degrees. They are the most educated among our group. So this emotional appeal is not gonna work. They see their bank accounts. They see their credit scores. They see the eviction notice that's put on their doors because they can't pay the rent. This is not gonna fly. You come with a black agenda. You come with reparations. You come with economic restorative justice for the people that descended from slaves. You cannot divide us by gender. That con is not going to work anymore. These tokens that you put out is not going to work anymore. And just a quick note, I saw someone in Maryland's 5th district, a black woman who's running for Senate, seeking to primary Hoyer. She's the minority leader in the House. She has something on the table for reparations. We're waiting to see her agenda. But I'm feeling like if she has an agenda, maybe we should get to work to help her primary Hoyer.
Yeah, let's see what. I agree. Let's see what's in it. Let's see what she got. I agree. Let's see her agenda. Let's print it out.
Yeah.
Let's go through it with the fine tooth comb. Let's see.
ADO is coming. We out. But that's all I gotta say, Yvette.
I appreciate you, fam, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you giving a shout out. Shout out to Reggie. I appreciate him giving a shout out to the ADOS women. I see y'all work. I see y'all working. And it's not. I'm just talking about me. I see. Oh my God, y'all be killing it on Twitter with information and organization. But that's like black women. Like that's always had to count and stretch things and figure things out. So I'm not shocked by the resourcefulness of it all. I just appreciate it. I retweeted somebody who was passing out ADOS packets at the Bernie Sanders event. Like that's what y'all is doing. That's what all of y'all like. Listen, shout out. I appreciate Reggie for putting that out there. And shouting out ADOS women in here in terms of and just to not fall for the divide and conquer mess and just organize stuff and just stay consistently on code regardless of the attacks. I appreciate what Reggie said about me. I'm not gonna get off because nobody said no. I'm gonna keep it moving. I'm not gonna internalize what you say anyway because most of the time the people who are saying this stuff don't matter. So like it just I appreciate it and I appreciate Reggie saying that though as an ADOS man. That means a lot. And I mean, bam, we're at the 2-hour mark now. So I apologize if I didn't get to you, but people got to go to bed. Everybody got to go to bed, but we got another show coming as usual. So we'll get it in then. Fam, don't forget, please don't forget, if you haven't ordered your book, When Affirmative Action Was White, May 23rd, we'll be reading that book, having that conversation. I appreciate it. And we will be continuing to do the political education, and we don't really care what anybody has to say about it. May 23rd, we will have a Monday, Wednesday show and a Thursday show. That will be our Thursday show, will be our book club. As usual, you can go to patreon.com/ycarnell or donate brown to donate. But please hit that like button. Regardless of what you do, please hit that like button. Please hit that bell if you have not hit that bell. You can also subscribe to the newsletter. You can do that as well. But please hit that bell for me. Please hit that like button. I would appreciate it. Please share. Please have the discussions and all of that good stuff that is necessary for what we are doing here. So, fam, if we didn't get to you tonight, I apologize. Like I said, we'll get to you next time. Till then, finish your libations. Be easy. Enjoy yourself. And don't let these people upset you. We have a long road. And even no matter what happens this election cycle, you know, we got to push these people. These people are going to continue attacking us. And we got to hold everybody accountable, which means the attacks are only going to escalate. I call that a wave. I told you what they did in Selma, what was going to happen, and that happened. I expect probably a new wave. They got to think of something. They just ain't got it yet. But they're going to think of something new. It's going to be a new wave of attack. Hey, listen, just expect anything when you wake up in the morning. When I wake up, I expect anything. So just do that, fam. And I think you'll be on the right road. Till next time, family. Enjoy yourself. Get some good night's rest. And we will talk soon.